GM. GM. So, today's lesson, I'm going to talk about how to not think about the money. I got this question earlier, and actually it was something I was discussing today with somebody. You hear me say it a lot. It's obviously, an easy thing to say and not an easy thing to do. So, first of all, explain why you say this. All the most successful people in trading don't view the money as the central focus. You hear it a lot from me and from others that the successful traders, they view the markets as a game, and you get rewarded for figuring out the rules to that game and playing the game correctly. The way we get rewarded is financially. So how do you not think about that end result whenever it's the reason you enter, right? I'm not saying that you have to only be in the game for the love of the game, or obviously what draws people towards the markets is the potential to make a lot of money. You wouldn't do it otherwise, right? There's nobody who truly just does it for the love of the game. There are people who do that now, right? But they all started off because they either had a set of skills or they had, a belief that they could figure out the rules and make some money. But it was always to make money. There's very few people, if any people, who just trade the markets purely for fun or for recreation or for the cognitive challenge. So I think the first thing that's important to say is you're not bad. You're not a bad trader if you consider the outcome, if you think about the money, right? You're a bad trader if you allow it to affect your decisions and allow it to drag you away from the path that you know is the correct path. So that's important to set as the frame initially. Now, we take that further and you can expand it to the point where you want to not think about how much money I can make in any certain time, in any certain time frame. But you do want to have an idea of expectations, both good and bad. So it's okay to say, if I do this, let's take it out of strictly trading and into more of an investment type of thing. If I invest $1,000 into AKT at $1, right, a cash. I just mentioned that because it's the coin I'm in. If I invest $1,000 into a cash at $1 and it goes to $10, which is just above all-time high, I will have $10,000, right? You're not going to stop your brain from thinking that. That is totally normal. That's going to happen. But what you need to then do right after is consider the amount you can lose. And then set that. And then say, okay, for me to take my money, put it somewhere, and then it just turns into 10 times as much money. That cannot happen without a level of risk. You do understand this, right? If you want to make 10 grand in normal life, you have to work very hard. You have to provide a service or provide value or go to a job or do something for a certain amount of time for then the monetary equivalent of $10,000 to flow into your bank account. So just like saying you can't go from 1K to 10K in a job without investing your time and without risking your life, as in your precious minutes. Sorry about that. Your precious minutes and hours and days and weeks on earth. The same thing applies with any trader investment, right? You're not putting in time as such because you could just buy AKT at $1 and you could just do nothing for a year and a half and it could turn into 10,000. But it might also turn into $500 after a year and a half. And you might have wasted all of that money. Now, wasted is probably not the right word, But it is a waste if you don't consider it, right? If you never consider the downside, you're going to be shocked when your $1,000 turns into 500. Now, if your plan is to just buy it, hold it, and either it goes to 500 or it goes to 10,000, and you set that and you have conviction and you say, this is my trade, this is my idea, I give it 1.5 years, I literally don't have to do anything, I just have to be patient and wait. But also I understand that it may not go there. So I cannot just, let's imagine this, right? Let's imagine you live in a country where 10 grand would be enough for you to live for a year, right? Relatively low income country. 10 grand could cover your living expenses for a year. And you have $1,000 net worth. And you put that into AKT. And you say, in the next year, if everything goes well, this will turn into 10K. And that can pay my entire following year's living expenses. Okay, cool. It does not mean that you can then just sit on your ass and do nothing for a year and that magically this money is going to appear. You have to still proceed with every other area and facet of your life as if that money is not going to go to 10K. And that is not being negative. That is being realistic. That is considering both the risk and the reward of the decision you make. I think that's very, very, very important to consider. Because if you do that, then you will be acting and behaving like a professional. And so take that logic and apply it to every area of trading. Okay, so when you enter a trade, a single trade, let's say this trade is a swing trade that's going to take on average 3 days, and your risk, 2% of your portfolio, is $100, right? And if it wins, you'll win $300. Okay, cool. Same logic. You enter that trade and you'd say, boy, wouldn't it be nice to make $300 in the next 3 days? But also, I have just put this trade on and I have risked $100. So that $100 is gone. If I get back more, excellent. But that 100 is gone. I am in debit. I have lost money until such times as I win and then I make more money. As long as you view it like that and you come to terms with the loss as soon as you enter, you will be able to behave and act rationally when the time comes for you to lose. Because the time will come for you to lose. Now, if you're a scalper, you're going to lose all the time, several times a day. If you're potentially, of course. If you're a day trader, same thing. You're going to lose maybe once a day, depending on how many trades you take. If you take 5 trades a day as a day trader or a scalper, you're going to lose once or twice. If you're a swing trader who takes 2 or 3 trades a week, guess what? You're going to lose at least 1 trade a week. If you're a higher time frame trader who maybe takes 2 trades a month, 24 trades a year, right? You're going to lose 5 or 10 trades. So you can't say that, oh, well, because I trade on a swing basis and I take 24 trades a year and I risk $1,000 per trade and my returns are 3,000 when I win. That doesn't mean that you've 24 times 3, right? That doesn't mean you've 72K banked. That means some of them will win, some of them will lose. If they all lost, you'd lose 24K. So what does that mean? That means you need to have at least 24K for the next year because every single trade might lose. And are you okay with that? Can you survive? If you have 24K and you take 24 trades in a year, a $1,000 risk, and they all lose, can you survive? Because if you have 14K and you say, well, I take 24 trades this year and I'm putting 1,000 risk on. Well, you can't take 24 trades. You can take 14 if you lost them all. Now, obviously, that's an extreme example. It's extremely unlikely that you would lose all 24 trades in a row. But if you come to terms with that, if you say that's okay, if you say that's part of the game, then you will quickly learn to not think about the money in terms of what it means to you for your life, but rather think about, oh, this money is gone. Am I okay with it being gone? And this is probably where you come to the level of understanding your risk. So, just because you have 10K doesn't mean you can put $200 or $300 on each trade, even if that is 2 or 3% of your portfolio, which would be sensible risk management. Because if you only have 10K in the entire world and you don't make much money, then is it okay to trade with your entire net worth? No, it's not. Because here's the fact. The money you trade with has to be money that you are okay to lose entirely and still survive. So maybe that just means doing something very small that's sensible, like saying, I've got 10K. I also make money every month, right? So I earn $1,000 a month and I live off of $800. So you're positive cash flow every month by $200, right? And that $200 can be like your emergency money, right? So you're not going to throw that into the market as well, because you need to have some money on the side in case you have to pay for life. And then you say, and also, if I make 1,000 and I have 200 extra coming in, out of that 1,000, and I've got 10 grand, I don't want to put that full 10 grand into the market, certainly not in my first year as a trader, because I understand that this is a game. I might have to lose before I can win. And so maybe I start with 5K. And so I take my 5K, I put 5K on the side, do whatever you want with it. Put it into a longer term investment, put it into, just store it, whatever. Put it into a money market fund, get 5% on it, put it somewhere. You can put it into stable coins and stake it to make 5%, or you can just leave it there. The main thing is, the key, the important thing, is that you don't put it all in. And in fact, for anybody who wants to play the next couple of years in crypto, if you believe that Bitcoin goes higher, putting 70, 80% of your cash flow or your savings into Bitcoin, that just in Bitcoin, in a cold wallet, off the exchanges. This is not a trade. This is you deciding that I believe holding Bitcoin for the next 2 years is better than holding dollars, because the dollars are going to devalue and they're probably going to print more. Or maybe it's Ethereum, whatever. I would say one of those two. I wouldn't go lower than that. Otherwise, you're getting into the territory of a trade, not just like an investment. And you could say, all right, well, look, I don't know what I don't know yet. I'm not the trader I will be. I'm not as good as I will be in a year or 2 years. So I'm going to take 8K of my 10K and put it into Bitcoin. I'm going to then trade with my 2K using my 2% risk. And I'm going to understand that I might lose all of this 2K, but I will certainly not lose it in less than 50 trades. 50. Because that would mean that you took 2% risk, or let's just say you took the 2K and you risked $40 per trade, right, which would be 2%. And you just said, my risk is 40 until such times as I prove profitability over several months, then I can increase the dollar amount, right? If you grow that 2,000 to 2,500 over 3 months, then you can risk 50 instead of 40. But you can say, as a professional, I am going to put myself in a position where I can take at least 50 trades with this balance. That is 50 bullets. So I'm in the game. I'm in the first-person shooter game, right? I've got 50 bullets in my gun, and that's what I'm playing with. You can reframe it, and you should reframe it. And you should view each of them as an individual shot. And if you think of it as, I only have these 50 bullets, this is my ammo. This ammo is precious. I am stranded out in the desert, and I have to battle my way back. I cannot afford to willy-nilly waste 5 bullets at once. Right? If there's a fucking, I don't know, mountain lion coming at you, whatever, someone's attacking you, you can't overspend. You can't overcommit. You can't shoot too many bullets at once, because that depletes your finite resources. And hopefully, as you battle through the game, you get more kills, you take less collateral damage, and you grow your stack. You pick up the ammo of the people you defeat, and your stack grows. Then you might have 100 bullets instead of 50. Great. You've managed to level up in the game. So it's not about the money and just forgetting that it's money, but it is about thinking, I'm not going in this week with $50 to make $150 so I can buy a new pair of trainers. I'm not going in with $500 this month so I can make $1,500 this month so I can pay my rent. You cannot think of it that way. And to finish it, if you want to really and truly not think about the money, put an amount into your portfolio that you will never, ever, ever, ever have to take out. This is the key. It is totally fine to think about the money in terms of the dollars. That's unavoidable. If you put money in that you don't intend to take out, then you can play the game. Because by definition, every dollar you make, you're going to reinvest it. So if you're always planning to reinvest it, and there's never any intention of taking it out, then you can actually play the game. And this goes back to the point of not putting your entire net worth in. If you know, right, if you've got 10 grand and you know that there's a chance in the next year there might be an emergency, you might have to suddenly fly home for a family thing, an emergency, you might have to pay an unexpected bill, you might have to help a family member suddenly, don't put that in. Because then in the back of your mind, you're going to be thinking, yeah, I don't know, I really do need $1,500 and I might have to take this out. You don't want to be in that position. So if that means you've got 10, but you put 2 into your portfolio, you put 2 into your trading portfolio, and that 2 never has to be touched, then all you're trying to do is grow that stack. And as you do that, you will stop thinking about the money. You will. I guarantee it. Because if you commit to never pulling it out, then it never has to become real. When you listen actually to many of these top traders talking about it, they get very uncomfortable with the idea of taking money out for 2 reasons. One, they don't like having to realize it, because if they're trading like 100 grand per trade, they don't like to have to pull it out because it makes it feel too real. They're like, shit, like I'm literally risking like a deposit on a house on every trade. I'm literally risking a car, a fucking nice car. I'm risking like a 6-month round the trip, round the world holiday, right? 100K does a lot of things. So many of them never do that. They never take it out. You also hear about them living quite frugally, right? They're throwing around 6-figure position sizes, but they drive normal cars. They live in a nice house, but they don't live lavish. They don't take holidays because they're obsessed with the game. You know, they might take a break for a week every year and they're fucking bored on the beach, right? They're not trading to live a lavish lifestyle. Real traders are not living crazy lavish lifestyles. They are obsessed with the game, not because of the money, because many of them literally have anxiety about taking the money out. Because when it becomes real, they start to think, shit, I'm actually trading this massive size. So they do that in the same way. They start off with 50 grand, they grow it to 100, to 150, to 250, to 300, to 500. Next thing they're at $1 million after a few years, right? But they never pull it out. They have savings, they have money, they've got maybe some income coming in. They continue living the same standard of life they lived before. They might take out a little bit every year in order to pay taxes or pay some bills or pay whatever, but they still net keep 90% of it invested, and for good reason, because then they don't have to equate the money with their lifestyle. And they don't upgrade their lifestyle and say, oh, I turned 50K into 300K this year, I'm going to fucking buy a Lambo. Right? Because then they've just taken their entire life's work in trading and they've realized it. And what do they do now? Because the magic of compounding is you don't touch it. If you touch it, you're suddenly back. If you turn 50K into 500K and then you spend 400K, well, now you're back at 100 and you have to grow that. And you can't grow it faster. You can only grow at the rate you grow. So growing 500K into $1 million is a 2x. But if you go to 500K, then take out 400, then you have to grow that 100 into $1 million, which is a 10x, which might take 3 years longer, right? So that's the first reason. They actually don't want to buy real things. They don't want to take it out. Now, it doesn't mean they never live well. They don't live lavish, but they delay that gratification way more than the average person thinks they would. You know, there's many of them who don't even spend 6 figures until they have 8 figures, right? Until they make 10 million. Maybe they make 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 million after starting off with a couple $100,000 or whatever. And then they start to spend a little bit. But they take like 9 mil, they might take $1 million out, put that on the sides. All right, I'm going to live off this for the next 5 years. And they still have 8 million, and they keep compounding that. That's the idea of it being a game. The point of it is that the money should be better invested with you than anywhere else. And that's all you're trying to do as a trader. I listened to, I think it was Michael Marcus. I think he was the first person interviewed in the Market Wizards book, in the first book. And he talked about it, and I couldn't put it better with any of my own stories. He nails it. And I totally agree. He started off with very small amount. I don't know what it was, like 10 grand or 20 grand. He lost multiple times. He lost 20 grand, he lost 50 grand. And then eventually he figured out, ironed out his problems, fixed it, and got back in, right? And then he hit it big, and he goes 6 figures, 7 figures, and then he's fucking like made a cumulative 50 or 100 mil by this point. And he said, every single investment I've ever done outside of trading has been a disaster. He lost money on real estate, and he said, I must be the only person in the world who's ever lost money. He bought like 10 houses, lost money on 9 of them. And several other investments, little businesses he invested in, things he started, things he bought, all went to shit. And he said he probably lost half of his fortune through his outside investments, through taking the money out. Now, he's still left with 50 mil, but he probably lost another 50 through shitty investments. And this goes to the other point. Almost every investment manager or trader or whatever you would call them, right? They're at different levels. Some of them trade, some of them manage money at high level, billions or hundreds of millions or even tens of millions, right? And they all say, I have 90% of my net worth in my fund because there's nowhere else I would put it. I'm a trader with a track record of making 100% a year compounded. So where could I put that money that would make more? There is nowhere, because I spend all day in the markets. I have my systems. I have my process that is repeatable. It makes money. It's profitable. It's what I'm good at. It's what I'm best at. So why would I take the money out? Because if you're not spending money, you're investing money, right? You've 2 things you can do. You can spend it on consumables, holidays, living, traveling, cars, clothes, whatever all this shit you can spend it on, right? Or you can invest it. Property, trading of any sort, investment, financial markets, watches, collectibles, business, right? There's a bunch of ways you can invest your money. But they already have an investment vehicle managed by themselves, totally in their control, that they're excellent at. And so why would they ever take it out? They just keep growing it. So that's going to be the way. If you reach this point, and I hope you all do, you reach the point where your decision becomes, do I take out this money and buy a flashy car? But do I buy this supercar? And then instead of thinking, oh, great, Lambo, Ferrari, whatever, you actually think, well, wait a minute. If I take $250,000 out, I'm actually costing myself at least that much, if not 500, 750, $1 million. Because if I just left that in for 3 more years, that would be $1 million. And that's the way they think, right? So suddenly it becomes a cost. It becomes a negative, a bad bet to take the money out. And so that's why they wait and wait and wait until it's so large that they have so much money that they could never spend it all. And they take a bit out then. You have to think of it that way. It's the same as Bitcoin, right? I've always laughed at people who think, oh, Bitcoin has to be money. You have to buy your Starbucks with it. But if Bitcoin's 30K, right? 35K, whatever. If you buy a Starbucks with Bitcoin today for $5, you're basically paying like $20 for that coffee in 4 or 5 years' time, right? Once Bitcoin's over 100K, you look back and be like, why the fuck did I buy that coffee with my Bitcoin? That's the same thing. That's the same way you should view your trading. You should be able to grow it consistently over time to the point where you don't want to take those dollars out because they're going to multiply more in your control, under your possession. So that's like the best way I could probably describe it in terms of how to think of it as a game, how to think of it as a longer term vehicle of investment. And most of all, your path, your goal as a trader should be to get to the point where you believe wholeheartedly, and the data backs you up, that there is nowhere that money would be better than under your control, under your management, where it will grow. And trust me, when you get to that point, you will not want to take it out. Once you're there, then you'll realize what I mean and what everybody means when they say don't think about the money, because then you realize, it never was about the money. It was always about the process. It was always about the game. That's hardest to understand and believe at the start, because right now you don't have as much money as you will have in future, and that money means a lot, and you want to grow it, and you want to grow it fast. But understand, there is no end. It's not about taking 10K and turning it into 100K, because guess what? If you can turn 10K into 100K, and it's provable, it's not just luck, it's not gambling. If you can turn 10K into 100K, you're not going to want to touch the 100K, because then you'll think, oh, I grew 10K to 100K in 3 years. In another 3 years, I could probably grow this to 1 million. And so you will not touch the 100. You won't buy that 90K car because that puts you back to 10. That's the way you're going to think. So you might as well start thinking that way now. Understand?